Space News 52. Two major Taygetan starships crash. Hello again. Thank you for being here with me once more. I hope you are very well today. I am Marie. Welcome to my channel. This information can be seen as science fiction, or as the viewer sees best, and I post it for entertainment purposes only. Still, I take my information very seriously, and for whoever has eyes to see. I am writing this on the morning of November 17, 2024. 3 weeks ago, two of our major starships orbiting Earth collided badly. Fortunately, no one was hurt. I have been waiting to see the consequences of such a mishap and how it evolved before making this public. I was also considering whether it was a good idea to publish this, even more so because it is embarrassing. The crash was the result of several things going wrong and because of miscalculations due to instrumentation failure. Maneuvering large and heavy starships in close proximity is always dangerous, and for you to understand what happened I must describe how it is done, and some technical details. As you can expect, all starships have an energy shield around them, which is generated by their engines. This shield would protect them from anything unwanted approaching a ship, including another ship which is getting too close. With their shields on, two ships colliding would not be so bad, as they repel each other as two magnets would, as it is the same principle. Yet that repelling may also move them violently enough to cause internal damage to either ships and to their crew. It may be mild or severe depending on how direct the crash is, its angle, speed and all those other variants. The simple fact that you suddenly force a ship that weighs at least hundreds of thousands of tons to move suddenly and unnaturally causes objects, things and crew to fly and crash against things inside, again depending on the severity of the crash. These crash scenarios I just described are with their shields on. Imagine what happens with no shields. It is quite common among Taygetan starships that they dock with one another, side by side, to communicate their hangar spaces through their side doors, with a special flexible boot, to seal the union from outer space. This way their crew can load and unload cargo, supplies, spare parts and so on, in a very efficient way, using cargo vehicles inside, for example, fork loaders similar to the ones on Earth, yet not the same. This ship's side-by-side docking is very efficient when two ships must work together, especially when one of them is a maintenance and assistance vessel, such as the two large Taygetan ships, Saska and Sasketch, which are nearly identical. As when heavy maintenance is being performed on a starship when far from home, and in deep space, as was the case with this unfortunate incident. For two starships to approach each other to the point of contact and dock in with each other, they must approach each other with their shield harmonics synchronized, that is, the frequency of the energy their engines are producing must be the same, therefore when they approach the shields will blend with one another as one. With the shield harmonics synchronized and at the same frequency, their shields touch and become one, thus virtually, their approach and dock in are done with no shields, from the point of view of the maneuver, and of the two ships involved. If both ships had shields at different harmonics, they simply would not be able to touch and dock with one another. As I said above, they would repel each other as two magnets would. The incident. Some 3 weeks ago, the supply and maintenance vessel, Saska 1 was docked on the starboard side, which is to the right side, of the large Taygetan dreadnought, Alcyone, as Saska 1 had been performing a long list of repairs and upgrades on her, which included the replacement of rear sensors, which are connected to the Alcyone's navigation computer. As the repairs concluded, the crew of both Taygetan large vessels proceeded to undock the ships from one another. The hangar doors closed, and the clamps unlocked, and both ships started to float apart during their separation, as is to be expected. The problem started because the Alcyone needed to move away from the Saskatchewan to starboard, to the right, but as I said above, Saskatchewan was docked to its starboard, therefore Alcyone had to clear Saskatchewan completely before changing its direction. As the two large starships slowly moved away from each other, Captain Goriel of the Alcyone started to move his ship downwards. He proceeded to dive to let the large and heavy Saskatchewan pass him from above, thus permitting him to move the Alcyone to starboard as he needed, once Saskatchewan was clear. Although the maintenance crew of the Saskatchewan had replaced the upper rear sensors arrays of the Alcyone, these were inoperative because of some kind of glitch where the navigation computer did not recognize them. Therefore the crew of the Alcyone had no way to accurately know what was to their upper rear, precisely where the Saskatchewan was at the time. The crew of the Alcyone miscalculated the size of their ship, so the dive they had performed to clear the path for the Saskatchewan to pass over them safely was insufficient, and to make things worse, they proceeded to move the helm to starboard before time changing the movement aspect ratio between both ships. All objects, big and small, when in a free environment, tend to clump with each other. This happens in water as well, but in space, it is even more evident. As the Alcyone turned to the right and was not far enough under the Saskatchewan, and with both shields still with the same frequency harmonics, the bow hull section of the Saskatchewan caught up with the Alcyone, ramming the rear part of its superstructure, causing severe hull damage as well in that area. The super-reinforced bow section of the Saskatchewan plowed into the Alcyone's rear superstructure, destroying it completely, sending large debris floating into space, and creating a decompression event in the Alcyone, which started to seal off the area using its pneumatic doors surrounding the damaged area, to minimize further damage. Fortunately, no one was in this area of the ship, or he or she would have been instantly killed. As their shield harmonics were still the same, the crash occurred as if they had no shields, as the ships must move away from one another, far enough, before changing their frequency harmonics. Captain Urmah, of the Saskatchewan, and his crew could only watch in horror, as they saw the Alcyone turn directly into them. They couldn't do anything as ships this large don't exactly stop on a dime. As the Saskatchewan impacted the Alcyone with its forward bow hull section, which is super reinforced and is probably the strongest part of any ship, the Saskatchewan suffered no damage. Captain Urmah sent an inspection crew to look at the area and they found only scrapes, but as he reports, the area was already scraped, so no damage was reported and nothing had to be done to the Saskatchewan, which continued to operate normally. On the other hand, the Alcyone reported severe damage and loss of a great portion of its rear superstructure, thus it was first considered that the Alcyone should limp back to Tema for extensive repairs. The maintenance crew of both the Alcyone and the Saskatchewan immediately did their best to contain the problem until it could be permanently fixed. As the captains of both ships kept blaming each other for the incident, I had to open a full council meeting to analyze the situation. It was found that Captain Goriel and the crew of the Alcyone could not calculate the accurate distance to the Saskatchewan, because of its newly installed but inoperative rear upper sensor arrays, which were also destroyed in the incident. The Alcyone should have dived a lot more to make sure the Saskatchewan could pass them safely from above, before veering to starboard. In other words, they moved too soon. It was determined that the Saskatchewan couldn't have done anything to prevent the incident. Alcyone, although damaged, continued with its tasks in medium Earth orbit, as it was decided to repair her here, thus preventing her from having to go back to Tema. Last week, Saskatchewan's sister ship, the Sasketch, arrived with a new replacement, a modular rear superstructure for the Alcyone. It was manufactured in Tema's shipyards to the specifications the crew of the Alcyone and Saska 1 provided. The new modular superstructure arrived in sections and semi-disassembled. As it arrived, the maintenance crew of all three ships, the Alcyone, the Saska 1 and the Sasketch, installed the new section on the Alcyone, which is back in full operative status, although its upper rear sensors are still inoperative due to an unknown glitch. I know that Anika of Tema shared information through Cosmic Agency regarding polymorphic titanium powder, which can repair or build an entire ship on its own. This is correct, but in theory, because in practice, starships are still built with prefabricated modular sections which are welded together, just as human sea ships are built, and then they are covered in that polymorphic titanium powder, which later solidifies. Polymorphic titanium can repair itself after suffering damage, but there is also a limit to its capacity. This will be all for today. As always, thank you for watching my video, and for liking, sharing, and subscribing for more. It helps this channel grow a lot. And I hope to see you here next time. With much love and appreciation, your friend, Marie Swaruu.